So I was kind of urged to go live today. I'm channeling, so I'm not going to pay too much attention to what is going on or people coming in. So um, I'll just throw this up if no one sees it. But here we go. I have something deep for you all to ponder. I am about to tell you the secrets of the universe. I am about to tell you how to work quantum physics, how to work the energetic field, and how all of this came into existence. How simple. The universe and everything, life, all of it is right here. The conduit to energy. It is everything. The particle space in between is water. Everything. Oh, this is water. This is water that got trapped and crystallized, but when a volcano blows, she's released ancient water back into steam, back into the atmosphere. I'm water. You're water. Dark matter. Two-slit theory. The conscious observer. So, here's the question that I want to ask you all to ponder. How do I know what I look like? I cannot see my face with my own two eyes, no matter how I try. If there was no reflective device or another human being or my reflection in the shining waters, I would not know what I look like. So the story, they go out throughout the ages of like Narcissus and Echo. And she was a mountain nymph, and she was chatty, and she fell in love with Narcissus. But all of a sudden, Narcissus, wondering why everybody thought he was so beautiful, decided to go down to the water and look at his reflection. Then he knew what he looked like, and he was so admired with his reflection that he just stared at himself basically to death. Just sat there, withered away to dust, staring at himself. And Echo, the wood nymph who loved him and kept calling to him, but he was so enamored with his own reflection. So Echo is the voice that just echoes back at you. The reverberation off. There is the myth of it. So I have this little black bowl right here, and then I was like, so you want to fill it up because I have no mirror. And then I look down. That's what I look like. And then other humans, they whatever people see in your face, because I've heard I look like different actresses or different people in time, or because it's just the conscious observer of viewing my face, and it's going through their own filters, memories, or what they need to see. I've heard this one from many children that, whoa, your face just looked like a child. Whoa, your face just looked like an old woman. Whoa, you just look like a young, I said, I know, it happens. I can change. I don't know. It's always happened. So different words, like for water, I mean, there's ama, agua, water. It's said with the O-D-E-R, water, Aramaic, even in, I think Hindu, water, pani. And then if we want to say it in Sanskrit, Coop. Like cup. Coop. Coop. So there's different ways, Kafa, to say water, which she is. If you think of hydro, you are water. You are made in her image. Everything is. The space between what holds this together, what holds matter together. They say it's like floating particle. Yeah, because this is water too. What holds it all together? How is a planet created? So you've got this, the centrifuge, that going really fast in space, collecting all the space dust and whatever matter, which was water to begin with anyways, because this is water. I'm an air-breathing H2O. Then there's the sea-breathing oxygen. And then there's those cool little water bears, those things that are from, outer space. I heard they just, threw them all over the moon. Maybe Elon Musk threw them on Mars, too. Because they can survive anything. They look like cute little... I think they are. Actually, they aren't animals. They're not bugs or anything like that. And they can survive anything. So what do they call telegrides or anything like that? I love studying water bears. And so things you don't know that are here. Water. A planet, a sphere, and a centrifuge. Almost like a parabolic mirror. You put a droplet down. We've got Dr. Masaru Emoto's water studies. And where he learned water had emotion and traveled, the different ways. So we are water. We are emotion. And that's what the Buddha is basically, control your brain, control your water vibrations. Because war begets war, love begets love. So the three poisons, anger, or was it hate? And you can turn that to love. Compassion, greed, generosity. So things like that. It's the vibration of what you putting out there, because everybody is an emotional. So if you're giving off the love energy and to anything, just like in Shinto, in Japanese, this is a one-dimensional being. This has life. This has, in fact, probably more dimensions because it's ancient water, amethyst. This is from the very top of Mount Evans, Colorado. It's 14,000 feet. Look at all. It's powerful. And this is my most treasured of all stones. I carry it. I still keep it. I found the sparkle on the top of Mount Evans, again, Colorado. Very point, I kind of walked off myself. And it is basically snow. See? And then almost it looks like there's a bone, like a human bone. It is. It's a femur in there. See it? So they were on top of that mountain. It's pretty cool, all crystallized in the snow. So whatever, then crushed down and all that. And I can feel it's human. So it's my power stone. I call her my air stone. I gave my fire stone to the ancient tree on Orcas Island. She was thousands of years old on top of this mountain. And I just hiked up myself and I paid homage to her. And I hugged her. And I said, this is from the top of Mount Evans, Colorado. And I know you are here on the top of Orcas Island. And she gets to look at, there's old stories of ancient, because Turtle Island, it was the first New Age hub before they all moved to Sedona. And they know there's some ancient juju in there. Of course. It's the Puget Sound. We got some ancient people. And then you've got up here in Wisconsin, about an hour from here, they found these 8 foot tall, you know, they call them Aztecians. I think they were 9 foot by 6 foot. And then there's some pyramids under there under Rock Lake. So I'm going to read you now the prophecy. You ready? I'm going to read you what my grandma wrote. Here we go. Let's get there. I think it's chapter 6. Wait. Get all this stuff out of here. Oh, here's me when I was 18. I was an actress. I belonged to the Sedona Theater Company. We used to do outdoor plays during the summer, Tlaquepaque. And this one was Dear Ruth, took place in the 1940s, situational comedy. And I played Martha C. Wright. And I guess, you know, because Sedona used to be like old Hollywood. I've met Ann Miller. And I really liked her because I think I met her when I was 14. She was still alive. Because I was a tap dancer. I was like Shirley Temple and I was like, oh my God. Like, you know, she wouldn't think a 14-year-old would know who she was. Like, Ann Miller! Oh my gosh, I'm a tap dancer too! And it was so cool. She's like, yeah. And then David Shields, what was he, the mime? And he saw my performance at Tlaquepaque. In fact, I was told by the director that there was a party and they wanted me to come. He wanted him to bring me up to the party because they think I was a young Mary Tyler Moore and I was like destined, you know, to be Hollywood. So I could have went that route. Thank God I didn't because I felt kind of creepy about it. Now that I know about all that, you know, 1980s bad chomo Hollywooders. I'm sorry, guys, that happened. I would have been, no, but So, I felt it. I didn't go. I got out of acting. But look how I aged, and I had no plastic surgery, and I was really good at it. But anyways, I digress. Grandma's book. Let's go to the chapter. Let's move some water here. And also in the Nag Hammadi, when it starts out telling about, I think it's in the secret book of John, the Apothegm of John the Baptist, which in Hebrew there's no J, it's Yalni, Yahshua, Yahuwah, Benjamin, anywho, talks about the one that had nothing before it, you know, the first day on, nothing before it, to name it, nothing. Saw its reflection, started in the shining light waters, and then basically its reflection was its wife, the creator. So there it is again right here, your reflection. All right, so I think my grandma's talking about Aztecians, all weird this. All right, let's read this. Let me get a sip. I make this myself. It's my green tea. Put her out. All right. Chapter 6, Prophetic Warning. In the mid to late 70s, I began picking up messages that scattered geographically pockets needed to be formed by groups of working with the New Age thinking in order to hold, strengthen, and protect New Age thinking against some future attack to eradicate it. There need to be communities as self-sufficient as possible away from the big cities. There will be a period of drought, lack of drinking water, famine, and fighting in the streets of the cities. This period will be like the scenes you have seen on TV. Looting occurs and animal instincts hold sway when catastrophe strikes. It is as though this information is beamed into Earth's consciousness. Those who can pick up the information from the pool are receiving the message. This message was reinforced years later by the following experience. In the knowing dream state, I was seated on top of a very high mountain on a ledge of stones, and I saw an eagle approaching. On the ground next to my feet lay a large square-covered packet made of a heavy gray suede. Although I could not see into it, I knew it contained a baby. The eagle was coming to snatch the baby. My first thought was to hide the baby, then to fight the eagle off. Instead, I jumped to my feet screaming, "Save the baby! Save the baby!" I turned my head to the right, and then in answer to my cries, a lady was seated beside me. She was wearing a filmy, silvery gray-blue mantle, which covered her head and shoulders. Trimmed in silver threads, it gave a blue cast to her brown skin. Brown skin. I peered at her closely, trying to determine her nationality and from whence she came. I was not sure if she was wearing an Indian sari or a mid-Eastern apparel. She seemed to be in her early 50s. She had large dark brown eyes and short, very dark brown hair. She rose to her feet, pointed straight ahead, and said, "Evacuate." The communication is never verbal, but mind to mind. I stood and looked out over the vista before me, the Pacific Ocean. Then the shoreline of the Southern California where I reside. Beyond this, I could see the mountains and the vast stretches of desert sand. In the far distance, there was a low, yellowish-brown wall. I thought, yes, I can do that alone. I knew there was safety behind the wall. I looked to my left and saw a descending pathway down the mountain. It was lush and verdant in its beautiful tropical foliage. Small wood houses on stilts were to the left of the path. People dressed in blue, carrying orange backpack, descended the path. I rushed to catch up with them and asked one, "Where are you going?" She answered, "Ensenada, Mexico." I responded that I was not going that way. I would go north. When we reached the mainland, this was a slower way to get to safety than the straight shot alone, but I preferred the route with people and the beautiful scenery. A mountain often symbolizes a place of revelation where transformation and change may take place. The vivid impact of the experience caused me to take my next vacation to seek these routes. I chose Route 8 out of San Diego. I knew it led to the desert beyond the mountains. Not knowing where I was going or even why, I decided to let my instincts guide me. I told my husband what I had to do and left him decide whether he wished to accompany me on what could be a wild goose chase. He chose to go and indulge me in my every direction. Halfway through the desert, the scenery became familiar. It was the same as I had seen in the dream from the mountaintop. 3/4 of the way through the desert, I saw the low, yellowish-brown wall in the distance. Upon reaching it, it was not a real wall. It was the long stretches of stacked bales of hay that appeared to be a wall from the distance. After we passed the walls into the safety zone, the road went left to Phoenix and right to Tucson, Arizona. Having been to Phoenix before, I chose the route to Tucson. I tried to let my instincts guide us and checked out some of the towns along the way. By the time we reached Casa Grande, it was over 100 degrees, even in mid-October. We stopped to see the excavated ruins of the prehistoric Indians, which the present Indians refer to as the Great Ancient Ones. It was so hot that the ground squirrels scampered from paw to paw as fast as possible across the melting, tarred roadway. Feeling this was not the place, I was looking for, we continued to Tucson. This was not the place either. We went a short distance beyond Tucson to a small town called Green Valley, at the foothills of the Colorado Mountains. I had some psychic stirring regarding the town and asked my husband to pull over at a church called the Lady of Blank. I can't remember the name. I went inside. At the foot of the altar, there was a small statue of the Virgin Mary. The church was empty, so I went down the aisle and knelt to peer closely at the statue. I checked out the statue's mantle and wearing apparel to see if it looked like my lady's. I am still undecided if my lady's clothing was Mid-Eastern or East Indian. This town had a good feel, but was not the right place. How tired, disgusted, and not knowing what I was doing or looking for, I turned to my husband and said, "To hell with it! Let's go to Las Vegas." Where was it? I was angry at being pushed and pulled by these crazy promptings, and this was my form of rebellion. We only stayed 2 days and returned home. Restless and still goaded by what I was supposed to do, I suggested we go north to see if I could get any bearings. We went as far as Cambria, California, a small town on the ocean about 150 miles north of Los Angeles. It felt comfortable, but I knew it wasn't the place. My vacation time was almost over, and we returned home. I was still carrying this feeling of disquiet because I had not succeeded in finding the right place. North could have been as far as the state of Washington. A second warning was given to me several years later in the dream state. I was warned to get away from the ocean front for safety's sake. For safety's sake. There was to be some kind of disaster, and the time was drawing near. I was not shown the calamity, but wondered if it would be a tsunami caused by a quake in the ocean. I was assured that my daughter would be out of the area in time. Several years later, my daughter divorced her husband and decided to leave Coronado and move to Arizona. We scouted Arizona and chose Prescott as having the best vibrations of the many places we visited. This was the place I had been looking for before and knew it instantly. It was located about an hour and a half drive from Sedona, Arizona, which is renowned for its awe-inspiring red rock formations and its many energy vortexes. My son lived in Sedona. Yeah, Grandma moved us there. See, grew up in Sedona. My son lived in Sedona then, but has since moved to Prescott. Yeah, I went to Prescott High. I was not at ease. Both of my children I was now at ease. Both of my children lived in one of the safety zones. Despite the warning, I could not completely leave the ocean. I am never comfortable in an arid environment. I have always lived near a body of water. Everyone is different, and those who live in the desert and dry air areas thrive on their positive ions. I had lived and worked in Coronado, which lies on a strand of land between the bay and the ocean, across the bay from San Diego. When I retire, I moved from being directly on the ocean island to a bluff where I could still see the ocean from a distance. It was as close as I could bring myself to obey orders. I could not bear to live in the Arizona, away from the ocean's afternoon sea breezes. I realized from the dream that the baby to be saved was New Age thinking, and the eagle represents the United States. At the time, I could not imagine having to protect oneself in a land renowned for its freedom. until some fundamentalist sects began trying to pass laws directly solely towards protecting their beliefs and ban others. Fundamentalism is authoritarian, intolerant, and compulsive about imposing itself upon the rest of society. It is mindset which sees everything in black and white, compromise to alien. The problem with any type of fundamentalism is that by nature it must seek to eliminate alternative ideas. It is popular because in times of great social changes, fundamentalist religion spells out answers for people so they do not make decisions alone. Herein lies the danger and threat that I could not have anticipated when I had the dream. Everyone is entitled to follow their own spiritual path without censor and direction from others. I am not condemning fundamentalists or any religion or spiritual path. I only wish to prevent those who try to ban, change, or intimidate those of other faiths by having laws passed to ensure their own beliefs, religions that defend their crystallized doctrine seem to forget that they once came from an unconscious revelation experienced by an individual. They have lost the experience of the original, and their adherents only believe that they are taught. They no longer know the revelation still can happen, and of course are ignorant of how the experience feels. Such religious traditions often resist further creative alterations by the unconscious. Theologians defend these true religious symbols and doctrines against the discovery of spiritual function in the unconscious psyche, forgetting that the values they fought for owe their existence to that same function. Without the human psyche to receive divine inspiration and utter them in words or shape them into art, no religious symbol has ever come into the reality of our human life, whether it be from prophets, evangelists, artists, or students of spirituality. If someone objects that there is a religious reality in itself independent of the human psyche, I can only say, who says this, if not a human psyche? Yeah, all right. We are contained within it. And it is the only means by which we can grasp reality. In the beginning chapter, I relate my first mystical experience when I was given an analogy of a man. It compared the cells in our body to us as individual cells, in the idea and form of a man as a species. Medical science tells us that when some of our cells become radical and do not follow the DNA program, they begin to attack and consume other cells. Then the body becomes cancerous and it is destroyed. Just so, when universal laws are transgressed and radical individuals want to attack and control other individuals, the species of man must notice this cancerous growth within the whole body and neutralize it. The only sinister encounter I had centered around my daughter, who was almost 2 years old. At the time, I awoke in the middle of the night, fully alert with the feelings my daughter was in danger. I ran into her room and sensed something evil lurking around her crib. My intuition told me not to turn on the light. I stood by her crib, mentally fighting the evil presence and ordering it to leave with every ounce of emotional strength I had. I fought off the intruder. I was a fierce opponent, a mother tigress protecting her cub. The battle must have lasted for at least 15 minutes. The force of my will was so strong and intense that I forced the presence to leave. I moved to California in 1963 from Ohio. 1 year prior to this, I felt a huge aura above me that seemed imbued with great changes for me and the family. It was so persistent that I told my mother about it. I had the impression that changes were imminent and so immense I felt overwhelmed and knew it would alter our lives. The feeling intensified in the late summer of 1962. I again tried to explain the sensation to my mother and wished I knew what it meant. We lived on the lakefront of Lake Erie in Bay Village, Ohio. It is an ideal small town studded with large, towering trees. The architecture of the homes and their fastidious landscape was a delight to the eye. Its weather is another matter. Often snowstorms would sweep across the lake from Canada, creating intense cold. In November, such a storm swept down on us late in the evening. My husband was at work until 1 o'clock that evening, and when by 2 o'clock he had not arrived home, I became concerned. I called his place of employment and was told he left on time. It was snowing so hard you could barely see 2 feet in front of you. I kept checking the roadway, watching for him. At about 3 o'clock, I saw a figure trudging up the street, making slow progress against the howling wind and swirling snow. I watched the figure, wondering if it was my husband, and if so, where was the car? When it turned into the walkway, I knew it was my husband, and I ran out to help him. He was almost paralyzed with cold, and his eyebrows and lashes were iced. I frantically helped to take off his clothes, covered him in blankets, and ran for a pot of hot water for his feet. He was too weak to get under a hot shower. He told me the car was stranded in a snowdrift, and he had to walk most of the way home. We were snowed in for several days. This was a turning point in our lives. We decided to get out of Ohio climate and move to California. This was only the beginning of the big changes in store for us. It was difficult to get established in the new environment there. Were not many jobs available in the photo engraving, my husband's profession. That's my grandpa. I decided to make my real estate hobby into my new avocation. We brought only 1 car with us, so I had to find work within walking distance to pay for my course in real estate. I found a job in a local bakery run by a husband and wife team. This wife was a jealous one. It did not like me because her husband did. I worked as a clerk, and she did everything possible to make me uncomfortable. I was determined to put into practice what I've been learning. I know that no one but yourself can stop you from expressing joy. I would take the time walking to work to enjoy a beautiful flower or the song of a bird, or smile at people passing by. When I was at work, I loved the woman and just kept loving her, no matter what she said or did to try to upset me. It worked. When I received my license and left the bakery to enter real estate, she told me she had to love me in spite of herself. I was successful in real estate because I used the principles I had been taught. For every problem, there is an answer. I would persist with the transaction until we arrived at the successful completion, knowing that what blesses one blesses all. Hey, I'm been reading her book. I divorced my husband and remarried later to live a completely different lifestyle. Your grandpa died after that, broken heart. Remarried later to live a completely different lifestyle. The huge changes I sensed all came to pass. My external life was completely changed. I cannot remember if it was in the late 1970s or early 1980s that I was startled to receive the following information. The New Age thinking, the Aquarian Age, or a raise in the state of consciousness, was to prepare the way for the second coming of Christ's consciousness. The era of Aquarius will sweep aside old traditions, and men will become more collective and universal-minded. They will be done with racial and sectarian religions. I do not know if it means an avatar is coming, whether Jesus will reincarnate or appear, or whether our consciousness will be transformed to the truth of life and the source of our being. I wonder how I can tell anyone that the time is now to prepare the way for the emergence of the Christ or Christ consciousness. I will sound like a fanatic, or like so many misguided souls that hearken the end of the world or the coming of the Savior. However, relate it I must, if I am to be faithful to the truths that I have been given to me. So be it. This woman was born June 2nd, 1922. She passed away the end of 2009. She was 92 or something like that years old. She's been dead for like 10 or 11 years. She wanted to be cremated, but it was stated that her body must rest for 3 days before they cremated her. So, interesting. So, my grandmother, psychic, psychopomp, channeler, had to write all her revelations right here. I haven't had it published yet. But she said to do it. So she wanted me to tell my story. She always said, tell your, well, I don't have time to write my story. I've been trying to put it up on Instagram. I look like my grandmother, but she was more voluptuous and hot. Like Mickey Rooney hit on her, and Dolph Lundgren hit on me when I was 19 in Prescott, the Universal Soldier and all that. So yes, I had my grandmother, luckily, because when, weird stuff started happening to me as a child, I had her to guide me. In Sedona, I think I was 15 years old, because there was some huge, psychic communities. There was the harmonic convergence that came through, is it August 16th, 15th, 1987, in Bell Rock. I think there was a comet or something come in, a spaceship, blah, blah, blah. That's where I actually walked through a portal. I was like, I was a kid. We all wanted to check it out. It was all dark, all the adult New Agers were out there doing stuff. So we were like, let's see what's going on. So we're running up through there, because, you're not allowed to have lights, because they really wanted to see the stars. And, this alien, was coming. And so we're all running through there. So it's, dark, just stars. We were coming up some little, I think there was some, like, 2 mesquite bushes. It was kind of like a step up. And we were running through, and all of a sudden, I walked through, like, blinding white light. And when I hit the other side, I was disoriented and, like, tripped through, and I felt all dizzy and wonky, and I couldn't see. Like, actually, somebody, like, hit me in the eyes in the dark, like, with sunlight. And then my friend had to grab me by the hand and lead me the rest of the way through the dark until my eyes acclimated. But yeah, I don't know what happened on the other side. I could have been away for a long time. I don't know, it's a portal. And you don't know. I don't know what it was. Ooh, yeah, I walked through lots of those. So there was a reading. Some powerful psychics, romped all those and all. So it was for my birthday. My grandmother paid for this reading. It had to have been like hundreds of dollars. I mean, she had this huge, like, amethyst, like, wands, like, it was like, oh, yeah. Oh, the Mayan calendar. Anyways, so she sat there and said, I'm a very, very old soul. I was on my last incarnation. I was finished. That I will not meet my soulmate till I was 45. And then after that was the end of the world as we know it. And that I was a huge player during, this is when I shined, and this is what I was a huge player. I guess during the apocalypse, Revelations, I don't know, that's when I'm supposed to, so Grandma's vision were, the earthquakes, tsunami, and the lady, blue-skinned lady with the mantle. Mine started at age 10. My family moved over to Rimmer Rock, Arizona. My grandma bought property up there, and I was in this little podunk town, Beaver Creek, that old school over there. We were within walking distance, especially from our school, to Montezuma's Well, which is the ancient Anasazi cliff dwellings, and it's a giant bowl, but nothing can live in it, but turtles and different things, because it's so much like sulfur-like, because it used to be a giant cave, and I guess, over the years it fell, but, you got Montezuma's Castle, so you see their cool pueblos, and you see what they actually built too, their own little, like, wells that went off, the ancient, and so I used to love to sit, especially there was this really cool overhanging. It was near the creek, and it had this, like, its own, frontal with the little windows. They're roped off so you can't go in there, but I love staring at it. There was something about the energy. I would sit there and picture. I was like, wow, but I love to live in that. Because I would always, I like little small spaces, and, like, I would totally be a hobbit and live a hobbit hole. I want an earthship or live underground, so I don't know. And so I was so, and the pool, I like to look and watch the little turtles, swimming around, but there's something about there. And so I used to sneak out at night. And then, in the desert, all the, reflective. So, I don't know, this is in the 80s. Anyways, I'd go run there, and that's when I met the ancients. And they showed me their ways. And because I really wanted to know what it was like to live back then. I just always was like, wow, I would love to, I would love to see this come to life. I guess my wish was granted, because I did. They kind of talk like, it's hard to mimic, and animal noises, and gesturing, and their own, language that, we're talking ancient Anasazi, which are now the Great Hopi and Navajo Nation. They were moved up. I got to telepathically, it's about 1982-ish. So I got to tell them about my time, and I got to see theirs, and then I guess I'm a little gatekeeper, a little shaman or something like that. Well, yes, they knew I was an innocent, autistic heart who knew the nature of nature and was a Stargate myself. I have I'm a psychopomp. I have the light. I'm a gatekeeper, I guess. I can. So to protect me, I received an ancient Anasazi water elemental. So only if you can see her, I wear like a blue and purple spike headdress. And anyways, back to the reading. I have a very blue fire aura. She explained it as like the closest to the flame, the hottest. And I do have a set of pretty huge wings, and I already knew that. I visualized that. So telling me I'm that ancient, I guess I'm one of the first who was part of the Book of Enoch, the Angel Wars. I'm that old. I've probably been everything reincarnated through blah, 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 blah. So here we are, guys. Revelations. Yes, it. Actually, you see it. That's why these calendars exist. Down to the, pyramids, every 5,125, as above, so below. They watched the planets. Everybody did, because when the planets swooped back around, I think Nibiru, planet 9, the Anu, the Anunnaki, who were that was the Angel Wars, Book of Enoch. That was them. It's an old tale of anyways, if you knew your history. So so it's all water, planets, this. Oh, yeah. So, she told me that, I'm all this. So I had dreams at age 10 about, the sky starts to turn really gray, all gray and, smoky. And then I started seeing these, fireballs, coming down, striking the earth. And I'm like, mayhem and chaos ensues. And then the dream inverts. I started having this at 10 years old. The dream inverts, and I'm standing on top of a mountain. There's that mountain again, just like my grandma had a mountain. I'm standing on top of the mountain, and I'm adult with a group of people. And we're all watching this in horror, like we were put there to be safe. Cities burning, people. Anyways, standing next to me, to my left, is the leader of the new free world. I can never see it, what it is, who it is, male, female, alien, I don't know what it is. But the weird thing, I started asking myself, I always say that standing to the left. Well, doesn't that mean that I'm standing to the right? And I could do strange things, and super genius, and reading grandma's book, and some sort of weird consciousness is taking over. Because I am 48, I am almost 50, and all of a sudden the secrets of the universe are happening. I get sick, stop working, and go into this deep, wanting to know. I mean, I had everything I needed for the buck full moon. I just started really going within and did the DMT just to see what I could see as a psychic. Is pretty scary. But here's what I saw. So you hear that, your heart starts to beat, and you do it so you can fall back in pillows or something, and you do hear this, this noise starts, and then you start going up this tunnel. But I had the intention going in that I was going to pay attention to what I saw. So all of a sudden, as I'm going up, it started all turning to rock, looked like this, like granite, and I saw ancient cave drawings of deer, and I felt like I had done them. And then I go up into later now researching, I guess it was Lascaux Caves. I was in, whoosh. I stopped right there, and I'm looking around, seeing all these deer. And I'm like, what's, and looking, and all of a sudden I look up and I see, going up the tunnel, there's the light. So I'm going for it, and then I am stopped by a giant white stag. like I cannot. It's probably why you may not enter. You belong here. You're not going through. This is not your route, Earth. All that came at me. I don't know anything about this stuff. Well, later on, I saw this stag. A guy was wearing it in Herbs and Arts. And it had, the star. He goes, oh, that's Cernos. That's the white stag, Green Man, all that. And I was like, wow. Anyways, as that stag came at me, you are not going down, and the stuff you're not going up. The scene started to dissipate. And then all of a sudden I saw this gray world. And for miles and miles, nothing but I saw these dark humanoid, like silhouette of a human thing, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, and it was descending up. And then I was standing on top of the pyramid, and they all looked at me at once, and it frightened me, and I was like, ah! Like I felt I was seen by something I didn't want to be seen by. Like they all turned and looked at me at once. And then I was willing myself back, and that was the end of my DMT trip. That's what I saw. There's other things you can't explain, the geometrical. There's things I cannot explain because I do not have the human language for it. Like the feelings you feel. So I had to research everything I saw because I've never seen anything like that before. And then I was so freaked out by what I learned, and then it took me down all these other wormholes. And yeah, so I'm going to end this, but I'm gonna do, because yesterday was a 9 day, and 9 is completion. Today is a 10, a 1, a restart. There's some things coming upon this earth. I read you what I needed to, and I will still try, because I do leave on a spaceship at the very end of this dream that I've been having recurring. I'm watching Earth with everybody I love. I guess they're my people. And knowing I can't go back. But I will be back in like 10,000 years, and giant, like you see in Egypt. And, we're going to train the next level of humans or whatever. Whatever's next. And there is a crystal skull at the bottom of the pyramid over here in Wisconsin. In fact, I can see it. It calls to me. Those giant things, the blue, I think that's what's set next to my grandmother. North, actually, I am in the safest place. Wisconsin is safe from natural disasters, and those giants and the pyramids have been there for this. They're afraid to rewrite human history. Well, that's, Nephilim, or the, come on, give it up. Just let people know everything. You don't need to control everything, you globalists. Whatever, you'll be done soon anyway. Well, you are. They're here. Alright, let's pull humans cards for today. The Prince of Swords. Now you look at it, interpret the picture how you may. Everybody be blessed. I send you vibrations through the water of love and light and healing. Because what I reflect to you, you reflect back to me. And always remember, I cannot see my own face with my own eyes. You tell me what I look like. And so does my reflection. I was created in her image. So are you all. She's in everything. There you go. Blessed be, human tribe. Stay safe out there.